I don't like the video that I'm going to be making right now because it is against everything that this channel has stood for, saving you money. And if me, the last bastion, oh no, don't buy that one. No, don't buy it. If the last bastion of your teetering financial and fiscal responsibility and conscience breaks in even the slightest way, I know all of you mad serial backers and purchasers out there will run out and purchase all of these games. So this is bad. This is bad, but I do think it's an interesting top 10. I was thinking about videos that I have done in the past. And at the end of this video, you can link to games that I think are good deals. Well, actually, I never did. They're kind of spanning all over the place in that one. So maybe I should do one that's specifically like 30 bucks or under or 40 bucks or under. Let me know if you want to see that one. I can make a follow-up video. I'll link to the other video that I did before about games that are good deals, which I haven't cross-referenced. But what I did for this one is I thought there are some really expensive games out there, and I don't spend my money on anything. That's kind of the point of being an actor and someone on YouTube, is that generally my income fluctuates and my income is lower. And because, you know, working in the theater, it would be lower until I get another, you know, big TV show, then I can add more money to my retirement savings and then I'll still have the same income. Anyway, point being, I've always been cheap. I've always been frugal. I don't spend a lot of money on stuff, and it takes a lot for me to purchase something, especially at the price that board games are going for nowadays. Nowadays, you know, back in my day, I felt like the average board game is around 60 bucks. 60 bucks Canadian. Like, that's what I want to spend on a board game. That's the perceived value that I have put in or had put in the past of getting something at a retail store. And even, you know, 70, now I'm creeping up to 70 as a reasonable bar because of inflation, even though I don't like it and I'd like to keep 15-year-ago prices in my head, okay? Things that delight me are saving money. I just realized that if you're in Canada at Dollarama, you can get a bag of little Miss Vicky's chips for $3. And I said, well, that price comparison probably isn't good. However, most Miss Vicky's chips go for $5 and they're around 200 grams. And this $3 one is around 150 grams. And then I was thrilled to realize that now that is the optimal receptacle of how to get Miss Vicky's chips. These are the things that I consider on a daily basis. It's hard to be in my brain. So this preamble, I know, has gone on for a long time, but it is important for you to listen to all of it. And if you skipped it, well, then you're out of luck and you're just going to justify buying everything. But I'm putting it here as a disclaimer that you save your money and make sure that you really spend money on things that you like. The number one on this list should be the game that you will get the most enjoyment from. Because at the end of the day, it is what it is. And the best game to spend money on is the game that you play the most. The best game to spend money on is the game that you will enjoy for years and years and years to come. The worst game to spend money on is the game that you will play once and then never get to the table again. Of course, that is going to be different for every player and every person. So these are the games that I think have been worth the money for me. Some of them I have purchased. Some of them I could justify purchasing. I have received as like review copies, but I could justify purchasing to own in my collection very specifically. And some, what are the other ones? Yeah, some I don't own, but have seen, oh, okay, this earns its price point. So we're going to talk about all those things as we go through, and I'm going to go through this list from the cheapest to the highest version. So these are 10 games, and there's a secret 11 one in there that I actually think are worth the money. And this is coming from somebody who always gets things secondhand. Like, I love board game buy and swap groups. I always try to sell things for about 50% at retail, and I always try to pick up things for 50% at retail. So my purchasing philosophy is skewed in that regard, right? Like, that's always what I am attempting to do. But I also, through Crowdfunding Countdown, now enjoy spending my money on games that I think are going to be great and put my money where my mouth is and make that those decisions as a consumer. Anyway, so we're going to go through these from lowest to highest, least expensive to most expensive. And for that, I'm going to use 401 Games, which this isn't sponsored, but they are the company that I generally will buy games from. Oh, what was that other one? Great Board Games? Is that it? Yeah, I just heard of this Great Board Games.ca also having good prices and being sort of a smaller store. I also want to shout out Millennium Games. Shout out to George and Ken, who frequent Millennium Games a ton, and Millennium Games, you can thank them for this shout out and for me being aware of it. George also keeps saying, now you can get Millennium Games to sponsor you. No, none of this is sponsored. But I am going to be using 401 Games as a bar, and we're going to start with Everdell. I really think Everdell is an expensive game. To me, Everdell is expensive. It clocks in at $100 Canadian. It's always been on the pricier side. And then if you go for the collector's edition for an additional $30, you get a small little pack of cards, the extra expansion, which apparently runs for $20. And then you'll get some metal coins and some wooden components, which comparatively is actually a decent deal now that you think about it. But I had rated that fairly low on the list because you don't really need the cards. It's nice to have them if you have them, but you could save yourself the $30 and invest that 30 in like getting New Leaf, which will give you a whole bunch of stuff. Everdell is one that I want to talk about for a number of reasons. Specifically like Everdell Emerland versus the Collector's Edition. Everdell is one of those games which is I've used to introduce a lot of people into the hobby, and the thing that gets them into the hobby is generally, or like gets them excited, is generally the tree that exists for no reason, and specifically the berries. Now, I think it's great that the berries come in Everdell, this base version, but now they're going along with like Silverfrost Essential versus Silverfrost Collectors. You're gonna lose out on those fun resources. So that's why I think Silverfrost is so friggin' beautiful, although I hate the moss. And I love Emerald, I love Everdell, I love all three of those games. I think the base Everdell is still my recommendation, and that's because of the resource price built into that sort of base game. They're never going to do, or at least doesn't look like they're going to do an Everdell Essential Edition. Oh, they are. They are doing an Everdell Essential Edition. So you could get, man, that's such a good price too. I really like that they're doing Essential Editions. Okay, that's great. But I do think specifically one of them is worth it for the price, and I would go with regular Everdell. I think regular Everdell gives you the squishy berries, and that to me is worth the upsell. People always remark on how much they enjoy the tactile feature of these resources, and especially when you're moving things back and forth, those deluxeifications do matter. And it wasn't a deluxeification until they realized, oh, we can make an essential edition of all of our stuff and then make a collector's edition with all the resources and whatever. But yeah, Everdell feels so worth the price to me. You get such care. You get a solid tableau building game. It's a meaty enough game to be interesting to both heavy gamers and lighter gamers. It'll bring people into the hobby. These resources are really the thing that grab people's eyes and get them excited about table presence and that tactile feel. I think the squishy berries matter. They're one of those deluxe components that actively matter. And while it's great to have the Essential Edition, and I love that it's 50% cheaper, and maybe they don't matter that much, and you can get them off Etsy, sure, I'm going to run it back right now. But I think Everdell is is a reasonable thing to upsell yourself on due to the tactile experience and how much that brings people into the mix. I heavily don't believe you should ever get the complete collection, and that is from years of experience. And experience of Zach buying all of the other expansions piecemeal and being able to fit them into a smaller version. I've talked to so many people who say they play Everdell less because they have the complete collection. I also don't think all of the expansions give you a value add, and for the cost of the complete collection, you should just do Everdell, Everdell Emerald, Everdell Silverfrost, and maybe throw in New Leaf. That is all you would need. You would get a much better experience bouncing back between those than adding in these different mini expansions. You would get larger sets of diversity of experience. So yeah, Everdell is the cheapest on the list. and comes in at $100. And I think it's worth it. Okay, we're moving on. Voidfall, specifically not the Galactic box. I think that's not worth it. I think it's a bad purchase. Shout out to all of my friends who have the Galactic box, but we're talking about the standard box for Voidfall in that $118 Canadian level. $118 for base Voidfall feels very reasonable. And that's surprising to me, but it's because it is such a chunky game. All of these other chunky games will cost you more, right? They will cost you that 150 bar and it were 160 or 170 Canadian. And so having Voidfall sit in at $117 Canadian feels really good for the amount of game that you get in here. For solo players, it's a huge success. You can leave this out on the table. You can play a bunch of stuff. You can work your way through your turns in whatever time frame you want to play it. I have not played the solo or the co-op version, and I still think it is worth it for the depth of experience that you get and the depth of flexibility that you get. You get a whole book filled with scenarios of all the different tech combinations that you're going to be playing and all the different asymmetric factions that you're going to be playing and all that good stuff. There's just so much in this box that it really does earn its price point. And again, the main difference with the Galactic box and the retail box are these minis, these ship minis that stand up and kind of fly around. And I find it almost more readable with the retail version. I got to try out the Galactic box when I was at PAX Unplugged. That was my first experience of Voidfall. And sure, you can see the difference of what's going on, how many people are in the ships as well. Each ship can only have 3 units worth of it as it's flying around. But I really don't care for that or for the storage aspect. I think the base retail game is just such good value. The scenarios are different and they can focus on competitive versus more economy building, more cooperative, more peaceful, more antagonistic. And so you get a huge variety of different setups. Plus, you have a game that is mechanically so dense and complexity so dense, right? That you have these different high aggression scenarios or low aggression scenarios. I think you get so much value in this box. You get a co-op mode that's been really well received, and you get a competitive mode that I have really enjoyed as well. So there's a lot of joy that you can get from Voidfall, and at this price, $118 Canadian feels really, really good. Okay, we're moving forward. We're moving on to one where I think both the retail version and the deluxe version are acceptable to get, but I also think the amount of care that 25th Century Games has put into Raw would make me happy to purchase either. I still think that the standard edition is great for most people with $48 Canadian. If you were to get the Sun God edition, it will over double the cost for the regular game because they're taking all of those tiles and they're turning them into wood. However, in games with bag building, sometimes people like that because the oils from your hands will get on the cards and will get on the cardboard and make the pictures kind of deteriorate a little bit. I know my copy has felt a little bit like that. And so with that experience of the standard edition, it doesn't bother me, but I could see justification for this Sun God edition, specifically because 25th Century Games has done such a great job in both of their productions. What I love about the standard edition is the quality of the cardboard and how the tiles feel significant and how I don't actually miss out on the Sun God edition. So let me be clear, if you're interested in Raw, this standard edition is a great, great choice. However, I do want to celebrate 25th Century Games for the phenomenal job that they have done with both of these editions. And if you wanted your Raw to take up double the space on your shelf because they're changing the thickness of all the cardboard pieces and they're making them wood, then that's a potential. I think it is such a beautiful design. I think visually it's so appealing and so clear. And so having a souped up version of this game of a timeless classic makes sense to me. This is maybe would have been my number 10 on the list if I was organizing these based around not cost, but my own belief in this video. But I do think that it makes the list just barely. I would contemplate it. I would contemplate it, and if I got it, I would feel good about it because of the quality of the game and because of the quality of the production, right? I think it is on the upper limit on what I would want to pay for this, but I think it does earn its price. Whereas a lot of games I go, not too expensive, etc. And so because of that, that's why it makes our list coming in at $125 Canadian. Okay, number 4 on the list, or number 9 on the 6, 7, I don't know, whatever it is $131 Canadian. And I'm excited to talk about this. This is Food Chain Magnate, and specifically the Splotter edition of Food Chain Magnate. When it was on the Lucky Duck treatment and everything became plastic, and they just jacked up the price for hundreds of dollars, absolutely not. However, Food Chain Magnate is one of those weird games where the price tag doesn't feel like it justifies the components. The components themselves are a bunch of differently shaped meeples and a bunch of little handouts and some cardboard tiles. And a ton of cards. You do get a ton of cards out of it, but really, like, Splotter games are some of those weird games where their components kind of feel like they suck at first glance until you play and experience the game and you go, no, this feels right. This feels considered. So, and I think that's sort of evidence in how much was added on for that deluxeification versus the $131 that you would pay in stores. I still feel like this is a very expensive game. I was gifted this game, but it's one of those things that I think exists in a very neat design space and sort of earns its price tag based upon its uniqueness and not its components. I think the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because games are often distilled down to just what are the components and what is the value of those components, and doesn't really factor in any development time, any of the external factors, artwork, or whatever. They're just like, okay, what are the components? This looks like a print and play. Why are people paying this incredibly premium price for it? But what you get is actually a very elegant economic game that feels unlike anything else. And I think, I don't know, there's something very charming about how this is created. We see the mountains of it in the background. There's something really charming about it to me. It is a game of hard economics with a number of additions thrown onto it, but I can't really say more than it's really just a vibe. And it's one of those things that, having now had a copy of it for a long time and having played it, I see its value in a way that I had never seen really before. It's definitely not going to be for everyone. $130 is still a lot. You really need to like this dense economic game. You need to be sure that you'll enjoy the cascading worker activation tree. But it's one of those things that this is the example of the book not being judged by its cover, but by its contents. And I think its gameplay does warrant that effect. Now, this is a weird one because, like, this is my top 100 games of all time. Maybe it has come out yet, the number. I honestly forget what number it's at. It's not in the top 20. But it's one of those things where I was like, well, I could easily just put all of my top 10 games and say, well, they're worth the price because I like them. But I like including this because for the longest time, I really didn't think that this would be worth its price. I'm still on the fence, but the vibes are leading me towards towards saying yes for this one. This would be number 9, sort of right after Raw, in terms of ranking this in the order. Again, I'm so budget conscious that it feels extreme to spend that much on these components, and I'm really finding that juxtaposition of like components versus gameplay. Yeah, I don't know. It's really solid, and I think it earns its price point. So that's why I wanted to talk about it as our number, whatever it is, 7. We're moving on to the next one, which I am also really excited to talk about, and that's going to be Ascending Empires, the Zenith edition from Play to Z. So this was Play to Z, which is a company that's founded by Zev Schlossinger, and like Ruel also has a stake in it, Ruel Gaviola. I don't know. I know a bunch of like board game people bought stakes in this company, and they haven't yet come out with really a smash hit, but this was their first thing that they were coming out with, which was a revamp of Ascending Empires, which was a game in 2011, and they were giving it the revamp treatment, coming out with, sort of a neoprene mat and a bunch of different factions, well, you're kind of all the same faction, but you get bonuses and powers as you go through in this flicking 4X game. This is a game where you can only land on a planet if you flick your ship to that planet. And if you flick it too hard and it bounces off the planet, well, you better hope that you have the right tech that will gravitationally pull you back into play. And this is a game where I was like, okay, again, I saw it on Crowdfunding Countdown, and I thought, yeah, too expensive for what it is. It's just like a flicking game. But I got to play it at Breakout Con. I don't know if it was this year or the year before, where my friend John brought it. John, who runs the channel Chits and Cardboard. And I was so impressed by the production quality. This is sort of the polar opposite of the Splotter situation, where I was like, yeah, the components don't earn your price. Here, the components really earn the price. Like, the storage is really nice. Everybody has a dual layer board to put all their stuff on. And then at the end, they go away into that little triangle container that we saw in the first photo. Get back to it. Yeah, right here, everybody has their own little triangle container, which houses all of their troops and stuff. The storage is formatted and considered a ton. It's able to store a neoprene mat, which I know those have a more expense than just like a cardboard board. And so every little detail and all the little touches that they added into this game felt really, really good. And I was quite impressed that it wasn't a $200 game. This is one of those games where I thought, wow, this actually has good value to this game. Now, of course, it's not going to be a game for everyone. I don't think I would ever pick up this game personally and add it into my collection, because I don't get those flicking games to the table that much. It's a lighter weight game because of its dexterity elements. And the reason for its uniqueness, yeah, here are the different trays, which I think are great. The reason for its uniqueness has to do with the flicking aspect and the flicking nature of the game, and not necessarily its deep strategy. And so I like those types of games. I like playing them, but they don't often hit my table if they're not as thinky. They have to be in the really right mood for them. So I'm not going to pick this up. However, I do think that seeing the production quality in person blew my expectation of it out of the water. I said it out loud. I said, you know what? This is a game that earns its price point. That really feels worth it. You're getting enough components to feel good. The experience feels really smooth, and you never get any hiccups with the experience. So you can just focus on playing the game, flicking, trying to like shoot each other's starships down, crash into each other into space. What I really like is one of the things, if you crash into each other in space, both of your ships blow up. So you want to get close enough that you can then fire an assault attack, but you have to be like within this amount. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, it's a really lovely production design that I was wildly impressed with. And so that's why it makes it on the list at our number 6, coming in at $135. Moving up, getting more expensive at $155. This is a fantastic stealth game called Earth Under Siege that I just realized won't be on my top 100 games because I forgot to rank it, I think. Could definitely make its way in there because I think it's worth it. But yeah, Earth Under Siege is another one of those big box games. You know, the big box Kickstarter games that everybody's talking about? Yeah, this is one of those where the storage isn't really that good, but it does come with 2 big old friggin' boxes. You get a bunch of minis in here of the troops that you're going to fight on the map, and you get your own minis as well. I almost put Earth Under Siege when we were talking about variable player powers, because I like the variability in the decks of characters. You have a specific character will try to be stealthy around the board. One of my favorite parts about this game is the action mechanisms, in that you have 6 action tokens. You can do as many actions as you want, but you can only recover 4 of them at the end. It also has a great, as we go through all these friggin' minis, we're never going to get to any other pictures of the board, but it also has a great flow of making your stealth feel good. Oftentimes in stealth games, and this is where Burn Cycle sort of fails a bit for me, and where Earth Under Siege succeeds, is that you are waiting, right? You're waiting for somebody to patrol. You're waiting for someone to come around the corner. You're posting up and ready to shoot them, right? And so oftentimes that waiting can feel very passive. Here, it feels very active because you're able to be discarding cards from your hand to get tokens, which can build up to activate other special abilities. And I really like that aspect of it. I also think the game is very well thought out. I think it's an incredible stealth game. I love the amount of scenarios that you get in it. It feels like a worthwhile amount. I like that you can do these as one-off scenarios, or you can pursue them through as a campaign. I personally enjoy the one-off scenarios, so I can switch my characters back and forth, and it's fairly manageable to do that. I think you just get a solid production in this. It's one of those things where, like, I can't see anybody having buyers regret from this game because of the care that's been put into it. You know, it's just a standard game when it comes to bits and bobs. You have your bunch of minis, a bunch of decks filled with cards, but the system itself and how these minis are handled feels very purposeful, and that's why it made it on my list. What are people saying about Earth Under Siege? Yeah, it's like sitting at 8.7. Every check is player focused. The action economy is so flexible. It only has one rating. It has 2-3 rating. However, this is not a stealth game. That's the issue. I disagree. Well, what, you want them to be hidden? More hidden? You're like, what I really love about it is that if you pass in front of somebody's line of view, you got to roll a check to see if they see you. How's that not stealth? But yeah, out of 165 ratings, only 4 of them are below 5. That feels like a monumental success rating. So it's a game that I've really enjoyed delving into. I would like to play it more, but one can only have so much time. But as far as those big boxes, and I'm very considerate on to how many big boxes make their way onto my shelf, just from a storage perspective, really. But yeah, I really think it earns its price even in that big box category. Games are getting more expensive, and a lot of them will sit in this $150 range now, Canadian, and I feel like this is one of the ones that you won't be disappointed with if you're looking for that stealth and action selection. Unless, of course, you're that one guy. But yeah. Moving on, $160. We're moving up. We have my favorite Nemesis, which is not my former friend Josh, but it is Nemesis Lockdown. I think Nemesis really earns its price. Nemesis gives you... Awakened Realms tends to give you some of the best minis in the business, I think. Nope, I'm not typing Awakened Realms. I want to type Nemesis. I also think if you add it on the Sundrop, like they do such great consideration, or if you do the painting yourself, the minis are really detailed and can hold a lot of fun to them. Even just putting a single color wash on them makes all their stuff stand out. Nemesis Lockdown is one of those games which is so cinematic. It's such a cinematic experience that it feels like not many other experiences that I have in board gaming. I've said this numerous times when I talk about it, that I don't actually think the gameplay is good, and yet it somehow manages for that to be a feature and not a bug. The emergent narratives that can happen with Nemesis as you crawl through the dark and try to get things and have random stuff happen to you, it somehow all works. And you feel so accomplished when you are able to achieve your goals. Nemesis Lockdown, for me, is the best of the bunch of all the 3. I don't know what's happening with Nemesis Legacy. I'd like to get some preview content on it. I should reach out to Awakened Realms and see. But yeah, the amount of storytelling and the amount of memorable experiences that I've had with this game are huge. And I think you do get a lot of good stuff in it. I think in Lockdown, it again is the best. I think you get a little storage tray. The storage is a little bit better in Lockdown. You get a ton of fun looking aliens, and you get more importantly, a cinematic experience in a box that will be memorable. And so even if it's a game that you're not going to play all the time, it feels like an event, and it feels like an event that you can feel good about investing in, even though it's in that expensive price range. Moving along, we've got just an incredible game for $165, Galactic Cruise. So Galactic Cruise, I think, earns its price point in a lot of ways. It's a really good game. It's been jumping up the charts on BGG. It's 110 on BGG's overall ranking. People love heavy games, and this is no exception. I also think the storage for this, well, honestly, the storage for this isn't that great because, well, it's game trays. But you do have a couple trays that make it not completely frustrating, and you can do vertical storage, so it's not Game Trays' usual complete disregard for anything workable other than the trays. But Galactic Cruise, why I think it's worth the price is because it kind of sits into that Lacerda element, where if you look up something like, let's look up On Mars, okay, fine, let's look up Lisboa, because that's probably going to pop up. Eagle Griffin Games, you're sitting at 100, you have the deluxe, you have the retail edition or the deluxe edition. Retail is the same at 165. The deluxe is 180. Rococo Deluxe is so expensive at 170. Absolutely not worth its price. Maybe that's a supplementary video I should do for this one as well. Expensive games that are not worth it, for sure. Everdell Collector's Edition is going to be on there. Rococo would be on there as well in terms of that deluxe edition. But Galactic Cruise seems to set itself apart. It's got really solid gameplay. The components are spectacular. They even like your meeples and the things that you're interacting with are bigger than you would normally expect them to be. And so when every piece feels that sort of size increase, it feels a bit more like a premium experience in a board game, but otherwise in other things, you don't need the size increase, to be clear. I also think Galactic Cruise you got your dual layered boards. They have deluxified everything, and they've made everything very usable and player focused. Galactic Cruise also has the best board game rulebook I have ever seen, and I have read over 4,000 rulebooks in the past 5 years, probably closer to 4,500, based around the rulebooks that I read not for Crowdfunding Countdown. So believe me when I say it, it's exceptional. That alone should perhaps make it worth its price. But yeah, I just think the care is very evident in Galactic Cruise. The care that they put into all the components is huge. The care that they put into their cardboard stock is great. The gameplay is awesome. They give you ways to shake up the gameplay with variability, and they have like a base side on the other side of the board. One of my pet peeves is when people reprint the same board on the back or don't use the back effectively of boards. And here it feels decently effective because it reminds you of the things that you're supposed to randomize versus the things that just are printed on the main board as the set version. And so it enables you to not have to look in the rulebook of like, hey, set up the version like this for a standard game. You just can use the backside of the board, which I think is great. Yeah, it's a remarkable effort from Kins and Key Games as their first foray into board gaming, and has put them on a map in a huge way because of this care and this attention to detail. And the deluxe nature comes through. It's a joy to play, and it's a joy to interact with all the pieces, making this, again, a very tactile experience, and that tactile experience feeling like it earns the price point. I don't know how else to describe it other than that, but the quality of the game, the amount of love that's been poured into here makes it feel dense and feel like a deluxe experience that you're going through, as well as the gameplay itself being good enough to match it and to earn a place on your shelf. Here's the one that I can't leave for last because, well, it's just cents. It's 5 cents under what we're going to talk about for last. But we are talking about Puerto Rico. Yeah, let's just click right here. Because here's the thing about Puerto Rico. Well, I'm talking about the Puerto Rico Special Edition. But you can get the Aliyah 1897 for $50. And you should get it like that. And before, they're not even showing it on here. Oh, Puerto Rico Deluxe Edition was $50, right? Like, so that's about comparable. That's about what it same was. I was absolutely blown away with the special edition of Puerto Rico. I have a full unboxing video about it where I'm talking and then I'm drooling and then I'm sweating and then I'm salivating. Comparing it between my little Puerto Rico and the big Puerto Rico is significant. I got the little Puerto Rico for like $30 back in the day. I could get regular Puerto Rico for $50. And I really think if you haven't played Puerto Rico and you don't love it as much as I do, you haven't played it a ton, you don't need this deluxe edition. To be very clear, this is the one on the list where I'm like, listen, you don't need the deluxe edition. But I do think for fans of the game, it earns its spot. And I don't think Castles of Burgundy, the special edition, earns its spot. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm not a huge fan of the game, but I've seen both of these, and I've seen where Puerto Rico Special Edition has improved upon the little things that they didn't include in Castles of Burgundy. There's been so much care and attention to detail in this product. It's insane. I like the boards being a different layout on the back. That's a great way to do it, even though you don't really need a board to begin with, but it helps kind of anchor the play. I love these trays for passing out the buildings. It makes setting up and playing the game so easy. And on these trays, there are little edged corners, so there are finger holes for you to grab it so that it's sitting flush with the box and you're not having to worry about like bending the tray as you're trying to pull it up. I think that attention to detail is so impressive. I think how they have dealt with different setups is that one of the best things I've ever seen in my goddamn life, where they have a different sculpt for every player count. As we go through this, we're going to see this one right here, this beautiful picture. This is for 2 players, and then you add that for 3 players, and you add that for 4 players, and you add that for 5 players, and it will come with both the meeples and the additional points that you would add into the setup, making setup just a friggin' breeze. This edition is so considered, it's insane. I don't think everyone should go out and get it. It's expensive. However, the amount of care that they put into this product, for me, it earns the price point. It really does. I would not say the same thing for Castles of Burgundy. Castles of Burgundy was fine. You got all the tiles, you got a couple bags. Whoopity friggin' do. You got an expansion that people like. Doesn't earn it for me. Puerto Rico, 100% does. The quality of this edition is unmatched, and it was designed by somebody who loves the game, and I think that's really, really important. So good. Definitely might be at the top of my list, really. Here we're going to talk about our bonus one, which leads into our second one. We have Quacks of Quedlinburg, now Quacks. We have the deluxe edition, $20 more than the non-deluxe edition. I think I paid, so this is wild, because I actually paid almost $100 for the Quacks Deluxe when I bought it for Pat, because I bought it from the Boardroom Game Cafe in Halifax, and their prices are generally a little bit more expensive. So having an all-in edition for $110, that also feels really reasonable to me. I would not get the base version for $50 when the deluxe exists for $70. I just wouldn't do it. So that's a small thing, because the most expensive thing that I've spent money on has been Wonderland's War. So I bought Wonderland's War as a little treat for myself. Well, also, you know, some people were very generous and gave me some money for board games for Christmas. And so I waited until the Black Friday sale or the Boxing Day sale so I could get 15% off, which is significant because it's like $30. And I bought this, I bought Darwin's Journey, I bought Great Western Trail New Zealand, all in the same batch. Probably the most I've spent on board games, maybe other than Ankh All In, which I sold at cost when I didn't like it. But it's Wonderland's War. Wonderland's War is a tough one, because it's one of those things where I also have added in the deluxe chips. The deluxe chips feel really good to play with, and it's a bit annoying that they aren't included in this deluxe edition. But I think the gameplay of Wonderland's War is just so good. It's Battle Quacks of Quedlinburg. I wish I had a standee version, honestly, but they don't do the standee version anymore because, well, it's not economically sound for them. But the Wonderland's War is this wildly interesting game to me, because it threads the needle of having an accessible game that turns into a long game that some people feel like maybe overstays its welcome. I think that Wonderland's War is a good enough game that it earns this price. That's pretty much what it is for me. I like that you get a bunch of meeples. I like that you get a bunch of minis for your different characters. I really would have preferred standees and upgraded chips if there was a trade-off there in price. But I have gotten everything for Wonderland's War. Actually, I don't have the Shards of Madness expansion, and I don't yet have the have the expansions because they haven't come out yet. But I'm going to reach out to Druid City to see if they want me to do sort of like a character comparison video or whatever, or review of the new factions. But I think Wonderland's War stands apart in a lot of ways. The art is just friggin' beautiful. The gameplay is involved, not overly complicated. The asymmetrical characters are awesome. You do get enough plastic to make you feel like you've purchased a deluxe game. I did really appreciate that they had an issue with all of their bags being not as strong, and so they sent out replacements with each one in terms of having them right with the packaging. When I ordered this from the store, they just came with these additional bags. So they went through the effort of replacing those and making sure that they were already there when you ordered it online, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, I just think this game is so good. And it's one of those things where you often won't find this at a discount on secondhand websites. So like Kijiji or Facebook or whatever, it's very rare to find this for less than 150 bucks. Believe me, I've looked. I looked for a long time before I decided to purchase a new copy. And it's because I think people get this game and they're satisfied with it. I think they get it. They either like it as a shelf piece, they like it as a piece of art, they like it as a game. This is a game that after we played it, Matt instantly was like, "Oh yeah, I need a copy of this. Like, I need a copy." Actively started like looking online for stuff. Really fun to have as a sort of set piece. Really, I should get Zach to paint these. You're right. You're right, internet. Zach, I got your next painting job for you. Yeah, but it really is a great game, and it earns its price. I don't know what more to say. It wouldn't be number one on my list. I don't know where it would fall in terms of earning its price. Probably below Galactic Cruise, below Puerto Rico, equal with Nemesis. So kind of mid range, I think. Sort of like 4 or 5 or third, I don't know, on the list if I was ranking for what's worth it. But it's a game that I thought about for a long time, and I eventually pulled the trigger, and I got it at retail. And I spent my money on it, and I feel I haven't regretted it whatsoever, because it is a game that has brought me a lot of joy and has brought a lot of joy to my table and has made a lot of people who I've played with excited to be there, which they normally aren't when it's just me. But then I pull out the game and they say, "Yes, we're now excited to be here." Anyway, those are the top 10 games that I think sort of earn their price point. I know I hemmed and hawed a lot over it. What can we do? Thanks so much for being here and for hanging out. My name is Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase. And I apparently don't have a channel mission statement anymore either after doing this video. I ruined it for everyone. I understand. But I appreciate you hanging out. Let me know what your most... I don't know if I want to ask this question, but yeah, I'm going to... What's the most you've spent on a board game and regretted, and the most you spent on a board game and didn't regret, and why? I'm very interested to see which games you think are also absolutely worth it for the expense. I know our tolerances for price will likely be very different, and that's also why I'm interested to hear. But these are mine, speaking of somebody who is very cheap, very frugal, and budget conscious. These are the games that I feel worth it and would be happy to spend, I mean, over $1,000 on, right? Probably would have been $1,500 to get these 10 games. That's a lot. Oof, that's a lot. But yeah, you want to buy games that will be with you for a long time. You want to buy games that you'll feel good about and that you can spend money on and that you can feel satisfied with, right? And that you don't have buyer's remorse. That's the main core of this channel, is to make sure you don't have buyer's remorse and to make sure that you consider your purchases and that you're actively excited about those purchases. So I hope you are. I hope you are enjoying your games, and I hope I'll remember to keep purchasing responsibly, and I hope you have a great day.